About to make us a quick supper. We've had a really busy day. Katie and Matt had a lot of stuff they needed to do. I took Granny to the doctor today. That took up a lot of my day, and now it's, before you know it, that's how fast it goes by. Before you know it, it's supper time. Seems like I just got up 15 minutes ago. But it's been a very busy day. So I'm going to make us really, really quick supper. First thing I've done is I've got my oven heated to 450. I'm going to roast some potatoes. So all I did was dice up some potatoes. I tossed them with some olive oil. I'm going to put them out on my favorite wonky pan that I like to use here. Spread them out as evenly as I can and put some salt on them. And put them in there for about 25 minutes. Your oven may be different, and also it depends on if you like yours just kind of soft or if you like them really, really crunchy around the edges. But usually about 25 minutes for us. Of course, you can put any kind of seasonings you want. Salt, pepper, garlic powder, rosemary, sky's the limit. I typically just put salt, that's all. We're pretty simple here. So I'm going to pop these in the oven, turn my timer on for my first 20 minutes. I don't know why, that's how I do it. I do it for 20 minutes and then look. And even though I never ever leave them for just 20 minutes, that's just my habit. And then I'm going to tell you about what else I'm going to make. Let me move this out of the way. And I've spilled some oil there. I'll have to get up. But my recipe I'm going to make is really super simple. I have those. I've already made some slaw. I made it earlier today when I had a minute. And I really wanted just to eat some cabbage. So while I had it out, I made the slaw. I've got it in the refrigerator. So what I'm going to make to go with it is just hamburger and beans. I could just do a hamburger, but I just want something different, something a little bit different, even though it's got hamburger meat in it. This is a recipe that you can find in mine and Jim's book, Celebrating Southern Appalachian Food, but it's so simple. You've probably made it already yourself, probably had it served somewhere, maybe at school cafeteria or something like that. But the recipe is hamburger and beans, 1 pound of ground beef, 1/2 cup diced onion. I have way more than that, but we like onions. 1 can baked beans. I have that already out of my can there. And then a tablespoon of sugar. You could leave the sugar totally out because the baked beans have a sweetness to them. Also, you could lessen that if you want to. You don't have to put it in there. Either whatever you want to do on that, or less to taste. We even put in the book. So we're going to brown the ground beef and the onions together, drain off all the fat, and then we're going to add the beans, and if you want to add the sugar, add it. It's really great to eat on a bun. That's how we're going to eat it tonight, kind of like a sloppy joe, except it's got the addition of those beans in it. And but you can also eat it like over rice. It's good that way. We eat it that way sometimes. So really, really simple. And I've got my big frying pan over there, so I'm ready to go. I'll let the potatoes cook a little bit longer before I start it though. Now when it comes to slaw, I've had so many people ask me about slaw. I have a recipe in the cookbook for slaw, but it's very basic. It just tells you the ingredients and then you mix, to taste what you would like. Most of the time I make slaw. I make it different every time, so that's why it's hard. But most of the time I just use cabbage and mayonnaise, salt and pepper, a little dash of milk, sometimes a little teaspoon or something of sour cream. Now I've made those, and mayonnaise. I don't know if I said mayonnaise, but mayonnaise. I've made those recipes before. That's like, think of the KFC coleslaw, those that are really sweet that you get at a lot of barbecue places, or I don't ever eat at Kentucky Fried Chicken, but barbecue places often have that. It's kind of a tangy sweetness. I've made those before, but it seems like every time I'm going to make slaw that I'm just in such a hurry that I just don't think about it. I just do it. When I was growing up, we ate slaw a lot. Granny still makes slaw a lot, and hers is really super plain. It's just mayonnaise and cabbage and salt and pepper. That's it, nothing else. Now, Pap, and I don't know, I think it's Pap that said you should put you can't put too much, but a little teaspoon of milk, just a little, to make it all incorporate. And then some people put just a pinch of sugar instead of those, those that are so sweet, thinking about the barbecue places and those kind of different places. And I've made those. I went through a spell where I made those a lot. Corey and Katie and Matt got to where that's what they wanted, and I made them. Now Matt really likes a really vinegary slaw. He likes that, but Corey and Katie do not. So I never really made it much, except every once in a while for Matt. But if we were somewhere and they served both those kinds of slaws, he would always go for the vinegar. But slaw is one of those things that everybody has their own way of doing it. Please share yours in the comments. If you have your go-to recipe for slaw, share it below. I know everyone would really enjoy reading it and seeing if it's like theirs or maybe something they want to try. Now for tonight's slaw, while I was eating my cabbage and making slaw earlier today, I realized that I have carrots in there that really need to be used. So I thought, well, what the heck, I just put 2 carrots in the slaw. I normally don't ever do that, but I do like slaws like that. It always reminds me of like at homecoming, decoration day, those kind of things at churches. Often there'll be slaw that'll have like the carrots and the cabbage, maybe a little bit of onion, but not much. And then sometimes even tomatoes in it. And I think it's so good. I always make sure that I get some of that, but I don't ever really make it at home. I should though. I really should. So now we're going to move over to the stove and I'm going to get started on the hamburger and beans. You could also use, if you don't want to use a can of baked beans, you might have some left over. I've never been one that really made baked beans very often. I like them, but I probably never, I just don't even make them ever. Maybe once or twice in my whole married life. I don't know why, but I do like them. But you could certainly use homemade if you have it on hand, some leftovers. If you were somebody that made baked beans often, I'm sure it'd be good to, what was left over, you could pop them in the freezer, thinking about a dish like this later on. There's a half a cup of onions, but we like a lot of onions, so I chopped up about a cup, so we're going to use them all. Get them all off the measuring cup there. There's even a little bit more in here. We're just going to let it cook, stirring it every once in a while, just like you would for any kind of dish like this. And if it doesn't seem like it's going to have very much grease in it, but if it does, we'll drain it. We're just going to let the onions get brown and the hamburger meat get done. The meat has browned, the onions are getting brown, they're getting there. I got a little bit of grease off of it, but not very much. It's pretty lean. I generally buy either ground chuck or ground sirloin. So this is one or the other. And now I'm ready to add the baked beans. And that's all there is to it. You're just warming through the baked beans, and then you're ready to serve it either over rice or on buns or crackers or any way you want to. I bet it'd be good over cornbread. If I'd have thought of that, I might have made some cornbread, but I guess we'll just eat it on the buns tonight. really quick and easy supper to whip up together. And hearty too though, and Matt likes it. I like it. Katie and Corey not so much, but which Corey's not here of course, or I bet Austin would like it though, I'm sure he would. Corey and Katie are a little bit pickier than the rest of us. I don't know if Austin's, I can't remember if he's been here when I fixed it before or not. One of those, it is like sloppy joes, that it's kind of messy to eat, or barbecue sandwiches are kind of messy, but it's good, really good. You can see it up close there. Looks tasty. Of course you could put lettuce or tomato or anything else on it that you want. I just put the mayonnaise in that. I could put my slaw on it, that would be good. I always like slaw on my barbecue sandwiches. Potatoes, can't go wrong with potatoes. Get me a fork and a napkin. So I can taste it and see what I think, which I know already it's good. Mm. 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 Very good. You've got the meat, of course, the beans in there, gives it a heartiness, and then the sweetness because it was baked beans, so really good. Really, really good. I learned how to make this recipe. Granny never made it when I was growing up. I used to work for this dear sweet lady, 2 dear sweet ladies, or 3 actually, all because of one. I started working for the one, Glenda Bell, and I've done various things for all 3 of them, really, especially Glenda. I'd become just like part of our family, and I would just do whatever she needed me to do. This was in the days before I worked at the college, but Corey and Katie had went to school. Alex had went to school, so I didn't babysit anymore. And anyway, because of Glenda, then I met the other 2 dear ladies. One of them's gone, and I'm not sure about Jenny, if she's gone or not. But I did the same sort of stuff for them. So a lot of times I would just make a route. So I would do Nancy's, whatever I was doing for her, whether it was in the house or out in the yard. She had beautiful gardens. And then I would go to Glenda's, and then I would do whatever she needed me to do, if it's run errands or clean house or whatever. And then I would go, my last stop would be Jenny's. I would start early though. So when I got to Jenny's house, she had a beautiful, all of them had nice houses, but Jenny's was really beautiful, but she was immaculate, the most cleanest house I had ever been in my life. Everything just so, everything lovely and nice, but just perfectly in place always. She was so dear. But by the time I got there, sometimes it would be dinner time, you know, and I would pack me something to eat. A lot of times I would sit. Nancy lived on top of Cherry Mountain, and I would drive back down her long winding road to get to her house, and I would just pull over kind of in the edge of the road. There was hardly any traffic, and eat my lunch there, just in the beautiful surroundings, you know. But if I got to Jenny's and she had food, she would just insist that I sit down and eat. She had this little bar in her kitchen. She just insists, and you rest, you just sit here and you eat, and we got plenty of time to do what we need to do today. And this is one day she served me this. And she said, "You mean you've never had that? Had hamburger and beans?" And I said, "No, not that I know of." And she said, "Oh, it was a staple at my house growing up because it stretched, you know, the money, stretched money." And also she said, when I was married and having a family, I just kept on, you know, serving it. She said, "It's just one of my favorite things, one of my favorite comfort foods." So I can't never make it without thinking about Jenny. And then because of her, I think about Glenda, and I think about Nancy, and all those years ago, that kind of work that I did. I never dreamed, of course, that I would be doing this work someday. I did already do the blind pig and the acorn in those days, though. That was part of what I did. And they all cheered me on in that endeavor, all of them. They were appreciative of what I was trying to do and encouraging and all those kind of things. Nancy and, well, Jenny was too, but Nancy and Glenda especially were published writers, so they understood and They wrote about lots of things, poetry mostly. Both of them were poets, but especially about nostalgic things, you know, like those things pull at my heartstrings, thinking about the whole history of the Appalachian Mountains and the region as a whole, the history of my family, especially, of course, near and dear to my heart. But anyway, they understood everything that I was trying to do. So I hope you enjoyed seeing how I make one of my quick, easy, go-to recipes, hamburger and beans. I'm sure you've made it before, and if you have, just like the slaw, I know there's all variations to it. So be sure to leave a comment and tell me what your variation is and how you make it, or how someone in your family used to make it. And if you're interested in the cookbook and you've not picked up a copy yet, I'll leave that information in the description below. I'm always glad when you stop by to help me celebrate Appalachia.